Borneo safe? So I just got back from Borneo a few weeks ago, and this was something that came up a few times when I was researching my trip. Honestly, initially I didn't even clock that there were any like unsafe parts of Borneo, but there are a few places where it's not unsafe, but things have happened in the past. And I thought I'd do a little sit down video just to explain Borneo safety, how to stay safe in Borneo, and if there are any places you should avoid, and why we personally didn't go to one area of Borneo. So let's dig in. If you're new here, my name is Claire and I make videos about bucket list destinations and overland journeys, so please follow along. Borneo as a whole is safe. I felt very safe there. There was nothing when I was in Borneo that made me feel unsafe at all. In general, I feel a lot safer in Southeast Asian destinations than I feel in Europe. Like Southeast Asian cities, I generally feel a lot safer than European cities, apart from the traffic can be a little bit more dangerous in some places. Borneo has one area of concern, and this is the eastern coast and the eastern islands are quite close to an area of the Philippines where an extremist group is active. This means that in the past, militants from this extremist group have crossed the sea, it's the Sulu Sea, gone to Borneo, and they have kidnapped people. Or not even they personally haven't kidnapped people, I think they've employed pirates basically to kidnap people. They have kidnapped tourists in the past, however, this hasn't happened for quite a long time. So I think it was back in, I think it was the year 2000 or 2001, where there was a big kidnapping. And this caused a lot of governments all over the world to put this part of Borneo on their do not go list, do not advise, do not go. In the UK, we have the FCDO and it's advise against all travel or advise against all but essential travel. So currently these parts of Borneo are advised against all but essential travel, which is like an amber warning. So yeah, this was back in 2000, 2001, and since then there have been a few very limited kidnappings. Obviously, any kidnapping is very bad, but they have been rare. They haven't happened much. The last kidnapping of tourists was in 2016, so 8 years ago. Now, over the years, obviously Malaysia has bolstered its security, and nowadays there's a lot more patrolling of the waters, the borders are stronger, and I have read a few things in Malaysian news that have said that it's impossible for these pirates to now get to Bornean Islands because of their defences. I don't know how right that is what I've read. However, these islands are still under amber alert for the FCD, and I believe the Australian alert is quite similar. I think the US is slightly less. I think it's a level 2 government advisory for the US, which I think might be the same as the UK. So yeah, it's not a do not go, but it is a take caution, I guess. So obviously things could happen. Anything could happen anywhere, really. Those are the facts, and those are things to consider if you're going to Borneo. Now, I personally wasn't too worried about the actual incidents there, like the actual risk there, because like I say, there is a risk of a lot anywhere you go. However, I did think it was important to kind of address it, talk about it within the group I was in, and make sure that everyone felt comfortable with it. And the main issue that we had was that some people's insurance wouldn't cover it. So that is one thing to consider. If you go somewhere that is red or amber, your insurance may not cover it. SafetyWing do cover it. So I had insurance with SafetyWing, who go by the US advisories, and they did cover Borneo. So if you are going to this area, I'll put a link to SafetyWing in the description, then do check that out. Now that I'm back in very cold England, I've got my fleece jumper on, I just wanted to introduce the sponsor of today's video, SafetyWing. So as I've mentioned, I was insured by SafetyWing when I was in Borneo, and they would have insured me for anywhere that I went to in Borneo, which is one reason why I love SafetyWing. They're much more flexible than many other insurance providers. But the other reason why SafetyWing was the perfect insurance for my trip to Borneo was that they now have an adventure sports add-on which covers over 30 incredible activities. This includes scuba diving, which I did while I was in Kota Kinabalu. A lot of people don't realise that scuba diving isn't included in every single insurance policy because because it is seen as an extreme sport. So with SafetyWing insurance, I got to enjoy scuba diving without worrying about what I'd do if any emergencies happen. If I'd wanted to go hang gliding, kite surfing, freestyle skiing or tandem skydiving, they would have been able to cover me as well. I love having adventures all over the world, but I will never compromise my health and safety. And that is why SafetyWing is a fantastic, flexible travel insurance policy that I use again and again. I'll put my affiliate link to SafetyWing in the description of the video. Do check it out if you're planning a trip to Borneo or anywhere else in the world. So ultimately, everyone could have got SafetyWing insurance, and I think everyone was comfortable with the small risk of going there. However, we decided ultimately not to go to Semporna. This wasn't really because of its safety. It was because we looked into going and the prices of Semporna are quite high. Now, Semporna city itself isn't that nice, I've heard. So I've heard if you want sort of a nice trip out, then it's best to go to the islands. The islands are quite expensive. So we were looking into that, and the only really way we could do it was to stay on Semporna on the mainland, and it didn't look that exciting. So we were looking into it and thought, maybe not. And another reason why we decided not to go to Semporna was because there were only a couple of us who would be diving. Semporna is very, very famous for its reef and its beautiful diving spots. Sipadan is the most famous. However, if you want to dive on Sipadan, you need your advanced qualification. So there were only two of us who had an advanced qualification. We weren't going for a diving holiday. We were going for a nature, beaches, that kind of holiday. So ultimately we decided that the difficulty with paying for it all and also getting there, so it's a bit remote to get to, not super remote, but you have to like fly to a different airport and then take a 2-hour transfer, or you can drive from Sandakan, which is like 6 hours or so. So because of it was a bit more complicated to get to, it was a bit more expensive, and not all of us wanted to dive anyway. So ultimately we decided to not go, that it didn't make that much sense to go. We also didn't have a crazy amount of time. So ultimately we decided to go back to Kota Kinabalu. We were in Sandakan, which is like the rainforest area, back to Kota Kinabalu, and then we went out to Gaia Island. And Gaia Island was perfect for us. We wanted somewhere beachy, relaxing, where we could enjoy the sea, sit by the pool, and that was literally what we had and what we needed, I think. So while, Semporna would have been amazing, also for that particular holiday, I'm not sure if it made sense to go. I think I would only really recommend Semporna if you're going for like a diving trip, like a specific diving trip where you're going to dive like every day for a few days, because otherwise it's like I say, it's a lot to get to. It's quite expensive, so you're spending quite a lot of time and money and energy, and you're not really seeing the best of Semporna unless you're under the water all the time. So that is my thoughts on Semporna, and that's why we didn't go, and it wasn't really due to the safety in the end, but that is something that we talked about before we went. The rest of Borneo, I did not feel unsafe at all. Some people say Kota Kinabalu can feel a bit sketchy. I didn't feel sketchy at all. To me, it felt fine. Obviously it's a city. It's important to zip up any valuables, make sure you're not like waving your phone around like that so someone can take it, but that's that could happen in any city in the world. Generally, people were really, really nice, really hospitable, and honestly, I'm sure, I've not checked, but I'm sure the crime rate of Kota Kinabalu is less than London and Paris. So if you find visiting London and Paris, then I don't think you need to worry about visiting Kota Kinabalu. The driving was not as crazy as in some other places in the region, but it was could be a little bit difficult sometimes, but it wasn't too bad. Everything else seemed fine. None of got any bad sickness really. Obviously if you're eating street food and stuff, it can happen, and I think some of us had a few times when we weren't feeling 100%, but none of us had anything really, really bad, and we were all eating street food and things, obviously not drinking the tap water. Otherwise, Borneo felt very, very safe to me. So let me know in the comments if you visited Borneo, or if you'd like to visit Borneo, and what you thought about it. Yeah, let me know if you agree with me, if you've been to Semporna. I'm sure people are going to comment saying, you should have gone to Semporna, it's amazing. But like I say, for our trip, it just didn't really fit. So I will probably go at some point, but for a more specific diving holiday. So thank you so much for watching, and I will be doing another video all about sort of some things that you need to know about visiting Brunei soon, so stay tuned for that, and do check out the rest of my Borneo videos. Thank you. Bye.